How's it going, everyone? It's Geoff Chrysler here, a detail enthusiast and owner of Rightway Heritage Trimming. And here we have our next project, this beautiful 62 E-type OTS. We're going to be doing a full interior and top as well. So this is the earlier style 3.8 style of seats. So you can see we've already got a pair of seats here. These are actually out of a fixed head coupe. I did these a few years ago, so I'm gonna spruce them up because they've been sitting in storage for quite a long time with stuff on top of them. So I'm gonna give them a good steam and try to work out some of the wrinkles and dents that have occurred in storage. But anyway, these are the fixed head coupe style of bucket seats that you'd see on the earlier 3.8 E-types. So the difference between Roadster and fixed head coupe is the Roadsters come to more of a point in the backrest, whereas the fixed head coupes had a wider backrest there. So other than that, the cushions and that are all the same, and it's basically the exact same style and profile, just pointier on the Roadsters. So these will be going in this car though. Yeah, the owner did those for his coupe and is now selling the coupe with its original seat. So we've got, it just made sense to use them in this car because this car didn't have seats. So we have a full interior. With Jag interiors, I usually get them in. This is interior from BAS Jaguar, BAS International out of the UK. Make really good product. And I used to work for BAS as well, and the American version. So very familiar with their products and their patterns. And they make a really accurate Jag kit. Those seat covers are from BAS, and we've got, complete kits for the whole interior. So here you got, it's hard to see because they're in the bag, complete underfelt set, the jute set. Here's all the moquette pieces, because earlier cars like this had moquette on the wheel arches. And yeah, and lower rear bulkhead. Here's your door panels, all your Harduras for under the dash and under the seats, and all the rest of the interior panels. There's the wiring loom cover panel, door cappings, some extra vinyl, the vinyl trimmed windshield posts. Again, earlier cars like this, they carried the colored vinyl through onto things like that later changed to black. So yeah, I love these earlier cars, so I'm gonna get right into this and show you step-by-step installation. So the first step I like to do on these E-types is to install some of that sound deadening insulation. There's all different brands. You can get Dynamat or Hushmat, or there's all different names and types, and they're all basically the same thing. I like to use the 3M sound deadening. It's the peel and stick. It's very much like Dynamat, but it comes in rectangular tiles the same, and it's nice and gives you a nice finish, and it comes in black too, which is nice. And I know Richard likes to use that. He's already installed some in the doors there. You can barely see it in the back, the black tiles, but they do a lot to quiet the door rattle down, and they're quite heavy too, I will say, compared to some of the other products like Dynamat. These have some weight to them, which does a lot for dampening sound and vibration. So yeah, so we're gonna install some of those. I have already done inside of the whole tunnel section. When this car was with Richard on the hoist, he had me come over one day before putting the engine and gearbox in, and I lined the whole inside of that gearbox tunnel with the 3M sound deadening and insulation. So that's already been done. I'm not gonna add more on the outside, but I will do all of the toe board areas, the firewall, because that'll help a lot. And I usually like to do behind here, this whole rear bulkhead, because you get a lot of axle noise. So doing that in those 3M tiles, and it helps to level it out too. When you start installing the upholstery, I always thought these look better if you just try to make it look flat, rather than showing the impressions through the material. So if you kind of float over those things, that helps too. It just gives it a nicer, cleaner look, and it'll deaden the sound from the wheels. So we'll install some of that first and then get into jutes and carpets and the sill covers in vinyl. Those go in quite early on these as well. So we'll get into some of that today. So I'm just preparing to install some of that 3M insulation on the toe boards. And what I'm doing is I'm using the jute kit that we got from BAS. All the pieces, as you can see, are pre-cut and they fit in there perfectly already. So I'm just using the jute as the pattern and cutting it out. This is the 3M stuff, by the way. And it's just peel and stick. You peel off that yellow backing and it's nice and thin. It's not gonna get in your way. It's not gonna screw up the fit of everything. It's really nice stuff. So yeah, I'm just drawing it out, cutting it out with a knife or scissors, and now we'll peel it and stick it in place and then follow it with the jute pad, which will be glued in place. And for gluing, what we're using is contact cement. I always use the DAP Weldwood, and I use a cheap little spray gun. At least for these purposes, you can get away with a spray gun like this for installing all the carpets and things like that. These are, you know, you can get one of these for like 50, 60 bucks sort of thing, and you'll be glad you have it. And the glue that I use is already spray grade. You buy it in gallon cans. It's the DAP Weldwood contact adhesive. And so you spray it even coating on both surfaces that you're going to stick and let it tack up for 30 seconds to a minute and stick it. And yeah, it's contact cement, so it sticks instantly and it'll get stronger and stronger as the years go by. So yeah, so we're gonna start with, like I say, the 3M first, followed by a layer of the jute. And then once all that's in place, I'll come back to it and we'll start installing the carpets over top of all this. Okay, so here we are sticking these pieces of 3M in, and they fit beautifully. And now I'm gonna start putting the jute over top of them. So I'm just getting ready to spray this up with glue, black side out every time. And you can see from BAS, they come with these lines drawn on them, and those are the fold lines for doing, like this is the side piece that is gonna cover all of that. So you can see I did do a little bit of 3M. I'm gonna do some more behind the gas pedal. I know it is on the inside already, but why not double up? Because it is so thin. So yeah, so I'm gonna put some more behind this, but I've pre-cut this so that it can do a nice 90 degree. It's not gonna roll and be curved. And I did the same thing on the back where it's gotta do the opposite type of bend. So it'll go in there like that. And I've already pre-fit it and it fits perfectly. They leave a little bit of gap top and bottom so you can kind of center it. And that's also like if your floors get soaked, you don't want it right on the floor. If you leave a little bit of a gap, it's not gonna soak up into there. Yeah, but they fit really nicely. So we're gonna glue those up and put them in, and that'll have that whole area insulated. And of course, there's this separate piece here for doing the toe board. So that just glues straight in. Okay, so we've got those jute pieces in there nicely now. You can see they fit beautifully, nice crisp square edges in the corners. Yeah, and now I have installed the wiring loom cover panel that goes up in there, which Richard had one in here in black. On these earlier cars, they were actually color coded to match everything, because you'll have a tan, same color tan Hardura A-post panel here, as well as tan underdash Harduras that come and butt up to it, actually slide underneath of it. Yeah, so that goes in, and it's got this big tail of vinyl that you kind of float over the wiring harness that ducks in there, so that if you ever need to access it, you can just peel it down. And then yeah, the Hardura, like I say, will come up and cover this. Yeah, and it just, I glue it to this edge in here, and this Hardura here is gonna come around and cover all of that up into that corner. So I'll have to clean away the overspray right here, but yeah, so that's what you do with that big vinyl flap on these, is it's just meant to float over the wiring harness and blend in with everything. So there's no visible wiring when it's all put together. So yeah, that's in there. So now I can continue on. Well, first of all, we got to do the sills go in first, which is 1/8 inch closed cell foam, like Landau foam, that we cover over here. We make these edges flat. You can sand them out just to hide all of that so it's nice and smooth. And it goes over, you can see the wiring harness down here. Just focus here. You can see it floats over that wiring harness, and you want to try and level that out as best you can. So I send the foam over it as well as the vinyl, and the vinyl covers the foam. So put in the foam first, sand it all smooth as best we can, and then we'll put in the vinyl over top of that, and the vinyl overlaps up onto the sill here, or up to here, and we'll cut it off. So and it wraps under here. We're gonna have to cut the foam back here. I'll show you when I put in the foam, but yeah, there's a chrome finisher that presses onto here to finish it all and traps the vinyl, and you want it to come up to the foam. You don't want foam underneath the finisher. There's no room for it. So yeah, so I always measure and draw a straight line and just cut the foam back on a straight line. Okay, coming along here, we've got the jute installed in the passenger compartment, and of course the 3M stuff went on first underneath the jute. And you've got a piece of jute on this side for the passenger that glues to the tunnel there, and on the other side there's a piece of jute that goes into a pocket on the driver's side carpet. It's the pocket sewn to the back of the carpet, so you can lift that carpet and jute out of there to access the gearbox. I can show you here on this side, and I'll show you the pocket later, but you've got those two access holes. So if you ever need to get in there, you can just lift the carpet up, and it comes with the jute and everything together, so it's easy to access. So that's how the driver's side was treated. And then we've carried on with more of the 3M stuff in the back here, just for the most part floating over the impressions. And I always stop it just before the upper corner here so that those holes are still clearly visible, and it's covering over the impressions. And this is all a big hard Dura anyway, so it's quite a thick material, so we can just float it over that. You won't see the line. But what this helps with back here too, not only does it prevent sound and vibration from the rear wheels, but I'm also, as you can see, you've got all this wiring that is supposed to go into those corners, and it's really hard to keep it in there when you're trying to apply the moquette or vinyl covers. And so on these early cars, we've got a big moquette cover that does this lower rear bulkhead, covers these faces, and then you've got more moquette that covers those wheel arches with foam under it. And you've got to float over this wiring that is in the bottom corners on both sides. So this 3M stuff, it's so sticky, you can push the wiring into those corners and use the 3M insulation to hold the wiring down and float over it and help hide it. Same thing with down here, so you can see how I've done that there. So now that is ready to receive its moquette covers for the wheel arches and lower rear bulkhead. And like I say, I still haven't done the sill covers yet, but I'm going to get into that next. Okay, so just installing the 1/8 inch Landau closed cell foam on the sills. So you can see I've offered that piece in there. I've got it all glued in, and it just floats over that wiring. And then I've taken a block sander to level out where the little brackets are making a lump. So it's smooth and ready to go. I've also, I'll show you on this side, I've also block sand those edges. That there's a flange there underneath of the foam, so we're trying to level out that flange so you can't see the bump. And then I've cut this back, drawn a straight line. There's a chrome finisher, like I say, that presses onto this edge, and it just goes up to that. So there's just enough room for the vinyl to go down and over, and the vinyl is going to wrap under this edge and get cut off under here. So I've put masking tape on the lower door sill so we're not getting overspray onto the body. But we will be spraying up onto here because the vinyl is going to go up onto that surface on both sides. So Okay, and voila, there is the passenger sill fully installed. Nice and smooth, floats right over those areas where the wiring is. And yeah, nicely glues all around the edges, up onto the verticals and flats, as you can see. So there'll be Harduras covering it all there, coming straight down there. And same thing with here, there's trim panels that cover it there. So that is the sill. So now we're gonna do the driver's side just the same. Get the 1/8 inch landau glued in, sanded smooth, and then the vinyl installed over top of it. And as you can see, I'll show you what it looks like on this end. That is nicely glued into the edge of the foam so that the chrome can press on there nicely, create a nice clean edge. Okay, and now with the sills installed, I've gone ahead and installed both of the front kick panel Harduras. So you can see how they just glue in place there. You have to remove those bonnet latches, of course, to put them in place, and then find the holes again and reinstall the bonnet latches. But it's just glued in place. It floats over, you know, the wiring and the cutouts in the back, as you can see. And I'll show you the driver's side. Often I've found with these driver's side ones, because you've got that wiring loom cover panel there, sometimes you need to modify them, and this one I did. I had to adjust the shape of this a little bit just on the top edge so it would fit nicely around that wiring loom cover panel. So we did that, just a little modification. Took about 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch out along the top there, and re-sewed the binding, and yeah, that looks great. So that fits properly now. So now we can carry on, and you can see there's the driver's side sill all done, getting a little bit of a chrome reflection there. Yeah, and so we're gonna carry on in the back now. Yeah, it's kind of up to you what you want to do. I could go ahead with more carpet or the underdash Hardura. As you can see, I've started with some of the underdash panels. I've just got this one here set in place. There'll be a screw in the back there that I've got to find, drill the holes for. So I might do the underdash first and then do the carpets after. Or I can turn my attention to the rear at any time now too. And first piece to go in will be this lower bulkhead moquette that covers this face and kind of overlaps up onto the top here and onto the floor. And then we'll be doing the wheel arch covers, which are, they have a foam, and then moquette covers that and goes up onto the top here. So okay, so coming along with the rear wheel arches, we've put in, that's a 1/4 inch foam that I've glued to the wheel arch steel, and just preparing the moquette on the back there. It's upside down. So what I usually try to do when I do these is I do them in halves. So I'll offer it in position, get it so that it's all lined up and it's covering where it should without any glue. And then I'll tape it in position, keeping my tape to one side. Usually I tape the whole lower side so that I can pull the top part down and glue it all while it's all being held in position, and then stick down the top part and then remove the tape and lift and glue the bottom part. So that's what I've done. The driver's side is all done here, so I'll come around the car and show you here. So you can see how I've done this, mind the shadows from the top frame. But yeah, just float it over the foam, and you can see you got to float it over that wiring in the bottom, which the foam helps to bring it out to the level of the wiring, but doesn't fully do it. And you can see in the top there, I've still got to, I'm gonna have to lift the top frame to scoop that underneath of it there, because it covers that whole upper shelf with, you know, extra coming down onto the face here and up onto that back face there. So everything overlaps on these. So that's the wheel arch in position, and like I say, I taped it in position, and I did the whole top half first, glued that, pulled it down, sprayed the whole area, and then stuck it down nice and even. You got to go, when you're gluing foam like this, you've got to go really lightly on the foam with your glue, if you puddle the glue whatsoever, you go too heavy, it'll melt the foam. So you got to be really, really light when you're gluing the foam. You can go heavier on the steel and around the edges, but go really light on the foam. Oh, and one thing I will point out too is this black 3M does have a clear plastic coating on it. So you got to make sure you peel that off first, so that the glue is going to adhere to it and not just to the plastic coating, because once the glue starts working on that plastic coating, if you have to adjust at all, it's just going to start lifting that plastic coating. So you got to make sure you peel that off first. All right. And there we have the passenger side wheel arch installed nicely, going over that wiring like I say. And now I've also installed the lower rear bulkhead moquette. And that, again, I do it in halves. I offer it in position dry first, put a couple pieces of tape so that it's falling right in this line here where it transitions. So put a couple pieces of tape so it's nice and centered just on one half of it, and then I flip it in half inside out, spray both surfaces, and then let it tack up, and then just make this nice and straight and carefully work it into the recess there. Yeah, earlier cars would have a flat lower rear bulkhead without the recesses. So that's another, and earlier cars also had flat floors, whereas this has so this is just after all of that transition. But yeah, but it's still moquette back here, whereas later on they started using vinyl here for the wheel arches and this lower rear bulkhead. So that's looking really good, nice and smooth. It's a funny material, this moquette, so it catches the light really strangely because it's like a fine carpet material, so it looks all modelly. But no, it looks really smooth. It actually is really smooth. Yeah, so looking really good. So the next piece is to go in here. I have my option. I can either get into doing the side panels, or I think what I'm going to do next is the big hardura that covers this whole area, and it's all sewn with binding. I have found in the past that I sometimes have to modify this big hardura to fit properly, just make it fit tighter against these edges. It's often too oversized, and it's rolling up the edges a little crudely. So I'd like to make it a nice tight fit, and especially around, that's the boot opening handle. You pull that handle to open the boot. I'm gonna have to clear the glue off of it once I'm all done. Yeah, I want to make this fit really nice, so I might have to modify it. We'll see how it looks dry. Okay, so just coming along with installing the carpet now over top of our jutes and that, and so you can see I've got those 3 pieces installed. This piece is one piece that does that whole transition, just like the jute under it was. So I usually like to squeak that in position and then pull it back and spray this part of it, and then pull the front back and spray it, because it's really hard to try and get it in position if it's all glue. It's just sticking everywhere, so I do it in sections like that, put it in position and then do it in sections. The others are pretty straightforward, you just put them in position. Yeah, so now I'm carrying on with the other side. I just wanted to show you, especially with wool carpet like you get in Jags, the backing on this is a semi-shiny surface, so I always scuff it up with some like 36 grit sandpaper to give it some tooth so it'll bite, because otherwise it just lifts on you pretty quickly. So that helps a lot with the glue sticking to it. And same thing with if I'm gluing to the steel, which a little bit later on you'll see those 2 pieces there. Those are for covering these frame members here, so it's just glued to the steel. And so for sticking to that steel, especially when going around a corner, it wants to bubble up and not stick on the corners. So I scuff up the steel, the paint, with 36 grit sandpaper, give it lots of tooth there, and I scuff up the back of the carpet to give it as much tooth as possible on both surfaces. It's really important that you do that because it won't stick otherwise. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in these 3 pieces. I always start with that piece that does that transition in the corners. So that is going in there, following that piece. So I put that piece in first and then follow it with that piece and that piece. And just like that, we've got the rear bulkhead cover installed, the Hardura. Again, I like to put it in position dry, and then I lifted up the bottom here and stuck it first, and then once it was all nicely in, then I peeled down the top, glued it all up and stuck it. And it actually, this one didn't require any modification. I'm happy to say it. It nicely followed that profile, and it's got just enough to go up onto the wiring there and float over it. So it's even on both sides, nicely goes onto the wiring there, covers it. So I've still got you can see little bulges there for the seat belt bosses. I've got to poke those through, and that'll help that lay down. But yeah, that's looking really good, nicely into the corner. It fits beautifully around that switch. So yeah, they've got a really nice pattern. So that looks great. That's coming along beautifully. So that really finishes off nicely around those wheel arches, and perfectly follows this profile here too. It's nice and straight down here. Beautiful. So it's hard to tell in the shadow, but it's right on the line there. Very nice. Next pieces to go in are all of these rear panels now. And I will have to do each side one at a time and carefully remove the top frame in those areas just to get the pieces in. And I like to lift it and sneak the pieces in behind it and then reattach it just as needed. I could try to get the whole thing out of here and do it, but it is a big job, and they've already kind of set this thing and adjusted it, so I don't want to get into that. I'd like to just leave it as it is. Yeah, I will go about getting these pieces in. These upper rear ones go in first, and then I can do these ones after. It's just easier to get them in there. Yeah, and of course that's gonna require lifting the top a bit and getting that moquette underneath and tucked in. So we'll go about that next. And here we are on the passenger side. We've got those carpet pieces in there now, so that nicely finishes off the foot boxes. Still got to finish off the underdash Harduras there, and the underdash panel is not fully fastened in yet, but that'll be later coming up. And now we can scuff up and put this piece of carpet in as well. Yeah, so I'm probably going to continue on with doing the underdash Harduras up in there and securing this panel. It's tricky. There's a screw here that goes through into a captive nut, so you got to try and locate that through the panel and drill a hole through the panel. Not always easy, but so we got to sort that out, and then we can glue in the Harduras that go in there as well. Okay, so just scuffing up these cross members to glue them up and put in the carpet. And you can see I've done this side already. And you can see here's the piece. I've scuffed it all up. I spray it once, let that flash off completely. And then I went and sanded that thing while this is flashing off. And now this is totally dry. I'm gonna come and spray it again. And it seems to adhere better. It's like a double layer. And yeah, and it goes down really nice tight corners. And you can see I peeled the other one out of the way so that it overlaps this one. These should have gone in before those ones, but all good. So that's looking really good now. So that finishes the carpet, and we got the whole bulkhead in, the moquette covers and the Harduras. So looking really good today. So we'll get that last cross member in, and then we can set in place all the floor mats. The rear ones are just held in place by the seats and the seat belts, and the front ones, again, they just set in place, and they've got little press-in snaps that go through some jute pads. So that's all that holds the floor mats in place. So we'll show you what that looks like next. Okay, and there we have it. The floor mats just set in place for now. And yeah, I cut and set in the underfelts underneath the main mats. I just cut a couple slices in them, not all the way, leaving a couple inches either end of the slice so that the slice can just dip down into the floor. Yeah, so that allows those mats to sit properly, and they've got nice 3/4 inch jute underlay insulating them. So yeah, they fit in there, lots of overlap as they did, and then we'll have those little press-in things in the corners. I've yet to add those. And then these under seat mats, I've got to locate the seat track holes through them and punch those holes. And then I got to punch the hole for the seat belt. It's sitting up on top of it right now, so I'm gonna go around that. But they're pretty simple. They're just held in place by the seat and that seat belt mount. So that's it for today. We're gonna call it a day now. So looking really good in here. Gotta give it a thorough vacuum and clean up some overspray before I go home. But yeah, oh, and we've got the dash top in. Yeah, that's his original dash top. I cleaned it up and you know, redid those demister vents and just tidied up the vinyl around them, and yeah, they came out great. So that's in there. I need to get some more 1032 nuts to cinch it down, but everything's in place and just needs to be done up tight. But yeah, fits great and looks proper. Yeah, they're quite a fight getting them in there with the demister vent hoses. And I didn't realize these early ones just have 3 hoses. The 2 end ones come inside are unified by the vent itself. Whereas later cars, they have separate hoses with a separate joiner down lower. Whereas, yeah, this is a much easier thing to do, I'd say. So again, prefer the earlier cars. Lots of reasons. And then I've glued in, I still have yet to screw it in, but here's these under dash panels. I just have to put some screws in the bottom corners there. And that's your tack trip odometer poking through. I had to locate and drill that hole. And yeah, and then you can see there's the other Hardura I've glued up in there. And the other smaller one on the other side. I want to try and tuck that edge. I want to tuck that edge underneath of the edge of the carpet. So I think I'm going to carefully pull the carpet down just there and do a little careful tucking. But that's looking pretty good, and I'll show you the other side here. I've done the same thing here. Again, yeah, there's the panel. I've got it slotted in. Come on, focus here. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, and it just has a larger Hardura piece there that's glued in place. And I got to do some more tucking along the carpet there, but that's how that goes. I got some fluff here in the corners here to clean up, but yeah, more fluff. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Yeah, so a little bit of careful tucking, and that'll help clean up those edges. And yeah, so tomorrow we'll continue along with panels, getting all the rear panels installed, and these rear quarter panels and door shut post panels, and then depending on how long that takes, and of course we'll get some screws into these panels to finish them off, get the underdash all buttoned up. Okay, so you can see I've got the moquette now underneath of the top frame there. I was able to undo it and just lift it enough to squeeze it under there, and of course I cut it so it'll go around the 3 sides, and then just left a flap to do the back side that I laid down from this. Anyway, so got them in there on both sides, and now I've just cut a strip of vinyl, well actually 2 strips of vinyl with a butt joint in the middle, barely see, to go over this. So I stick it to the inside edge first, and then I wrap it around because it's got to stretch around. If I had done it the opposite way, you'd have wrinkles on the inside. So yeah, always do the inside corner first and then stretch it to go wide around the curve. So I've trimmed that, and it goes, you know, just about an inch past where the tack strip ends. Just ends, folds back on itself there. And I've cut the excess off of here, so it's just got a nice roll. The panel nicely covers that. I've been testing and testing. So now I'm ready to start installing these rear light cover panels that they nicely slide in and butt join to each other behind the light here. So you gotta cut them to fit there, and just cut the vinyl on the aluminum panel. So I'll just grab them here. Here you can see I've already started curving this one, and I've just gotta, you know, trim back the vinyl so it nicely fits around the light there. And then I'll push it in behind and get it to line up to the body profile and the lower profile here. And yeah, and these didn't have many screws there. I think there's like one screw sort of in the middle here, and then where the next panel comes and overlaps this, there's a screw in that joint. So that's about it. So I'm gonna get those installed and show you what that looks like. Okay, so just moving along with installing the panels. I've got the upper rear panels. Now I've got the top frame folded down. I forgot, I'll show you a shot of that next. But now I'm doing the doorpost panels. I've done one side already, and it's two panels that work in unison to do this. So you've got, first of all, the door rebate closing panel, which I've already got in place. I was able to take the old original panels and find the original holes to use throughout everything. So I'm using all the original hardware holes, the ones in the body as well. So you screw that in place just with the pair of screws, and it's tight against the body here. I've whacked it. That's all going to be covered anyway, all of this. And then I've located the holes here in the, you can see there's a bunch there. There's another one up in the top corner there. And now I'm ready to, and I've now glued in this piece of vinyl here, because just this area here is visible, as you can see here, just in that triangle shape. So now this panel can go on, and it's an aluminum panel that has foam on it, and you install these panel clips here. Now this kit came with the green panel clips, which are slightly offset from these holes, but these panels are following the originals that, you know, the clip should actually be bang on with the hole. So it's a different type of clip. So I've been able to save the originals in the most part. Here's what they look like. You see how one end is longer. You slide that in first, and then, so that's how they go in. So yeah, like that, and then you spread them out as best you can. And yeah, and now those holes, those will correspond perfectly with the holes there. So there's a series of 1, 2, 3, one more in the bottom, and here in this upper corner. These are not used on these earlier models. Later models have a big chrome bracket piece that's on the corner here, but earlier cars don't have that, so it'll just be a single trim screw holding it in there at the top. I've got to reprofile this to follow the door panel and make that a nice, clean, smooth joint again when the door is closed. But once the door is all populated with its panel and upper door capping, then I can make this look better. So yeah, now that this vinyl is on, I'm installing the clips, so I can now install this panel. And as you see, like it covers where those screws were and goes right to the floor there. So that's how that's done. And of course, a lot of times I've seen a single screw just in the bottom corner here to hold that. I don't know if we're going to do it on this one because there's no evidence that it had it originally, so I don't think so. But yeah, like I say, this is going to need to be straightened out and reprofiled a little bit to correspond better with the door. But that's easy to do. It's just thin aluminum. So yeah, so we'll get that panel pressed in place, and that finishes off these rear panels. Okay, and here we are. We've got the rear panels all installed now. So here's this panel that presses in with the clips. It's nicely installed there. It goes level with that top shelf. And yeah, I might still put a screw in here because you can see that still wants to stick out. Just got to be careful not to hit the screw underneath. So we'll do it in the bottom corner, I think. One there, and maybe one down here. We'll see, because that sticks up a little bit, but only if it's absolutely necessary, because you'll never see this once the seats are in. So yeah, this shows you this whole rear panels affair, and I've got those holes located for the seat belts. There's 2 more holes, one here and one here, for lift the dot snap studs, and they can be found if I go in through the trunk, through the boot. You can find these holes and just poke them through with an awl and use the original holes. And those are for, there's these, you can turn around here, you've got these lift the dot studs you got to remember to put into these panels before you put the panel in, because there's a nut on the back of them. So again, I use the original ones and use the original panels for location. And that's for the boot cover when it's down in place. And then, yeah, for when the top is folded down, that's what these studs are for, because you've got these, if you look at the top header rail, that's what these straps, they go, when the top is all folded down, these go through here, through the holes there, and snap to the studs there that I was just pointing out. So, and now I've also installed these windshield posts. Again, it's just a series of a couple of those press-in clips on the backside, and they locate, and you just press them in. And then the top here, you've got to remove this upper bracket, and it sandwiches down over top of the vinyl and everything, and then the screws go through it. So both sides are in there. So these early 3.8s like this, they don't have a bunch of chrome here to do that transition. It's just the color into the black, and then I've still got to do the grab handle, but other than that, that's how that's finished. No chrome like the later cars had. So this is coming right along here. Got the top frame just up out of the way so I could finish this back here. But this is looking wonderful. Everything fit really nicely. So all I've got left to do is put the little screws on either one of these, but I'm gonna wait until these are profiled properly so they meet up nicely with the door. So yeah, that's looking great. We'll continue on, and next steps here are to get into the door panels themselves. So it'll be the upper door capping first, and then the panel itself. The door capping has a couple little screws that you got to keep short so it doesn't scratch the glass, and it's got a brush seal on it. The new door cappings came with new brush seals already pre-installed with all the clips, so they're ready to go. And same thing with the door panels, they came with all new panel clips already installed, so you just got to locate them and put them on. And then of course you got your hardware for your window winder and handle, and then there's a chrome strips that go on the top and bottom of the panel. Okay, and here we are looking really nice. We've got all the hardura in, all the carpet in, all the moquette in, and all the panels except for the door panels now. So tomorrow we'll be focusing on doing the door cappings and panels with their chrome and hardware, and then probably the boot interior. Okay, so just getting into fitting the door panels next. The first thing to do with these doors is I first of all wind up the windows all the way so that they're out of the way, just to keep them safe and protect them from overspray. What I'm gonna do now is install vapor barrier, just some thin plastic. The original stuff was like a black, thin vinyl plastic type of stuff. Yeah, I just use clear plastic. In fact, I'm using the plastic that the door panels actually came in. It's fairly heavy, so it's ideal for this, and it's already in the right size, so I just kind of went around the edges, and so I'll be spray gluing the whole thing and corresponding spray gluing just around the edges. And you know, I'm going to be keeping it inside of these clip holes all the way around, so you want to cover over all of these holes, get a nice seal. So I do it oversized, and I'll cut it off and just make sure that those clip holes are punched through, and of course these guys got to punch through as well. These early 3.8 doors, they're very simple. There's no door handle that you got to find in there. There's you know, very little accessories, and The handles are very simple. There's no even, later cars have like an upper panel here that's vinyl covered, that has vinyl that comes underneath the door panel here. These early 3.8s, it's just left body color there. So it's just a door panel and no separate panel up there. So we'll be doing, vapor barrier on the door first, and then I'm gonna install the door capping panels and then the door panels themselves with all the hardware. So we'll put on that vapor barrier and show you what that looks like. Okay, so we've got the vapor barrier on there, and now the door capping has been pushed into place. So you just gotta, there's like a little lip in there that you know, catches the inside edge of the door capping, and you slide it in under there. And same thing with back here, it goes up and over the little chrome finisher there, so it's nice. And that brush seal is nicely sealed against the against the side window. And I've had to cut these out of the vinyl. They're corresponding holes in the steel for the door capping, so they fall in line with the clip holes. I did have to cut the corner off there to expose that hole. These are new door cappings, so a little different. So the other side, I've got the vapor barrier on there. Here you can see what I was talking about. There's the little shelf that catches the inner lip of the door capping, and here's the rear one that you get it in there. So you hang it on that, and so now I'm just preparing the door panel itself. You can see I've got all the clips already installed. This actually came like this from BAS with the clips already in it. And then you've got these little guys that we've got to take all those out. They've just been poked through, so they're easy to pop out. And you take them all out and then slide them into the new chrome here, into the channeling like this. Here's his originals. So you slide them all in there and then poke it all through, and then bend them over on the back side, and that's what holds that chrome on. So we'll get the chrome on the panel, and then once that's done, we'll offer the panel up to the door and install it. And just, it's all those clip holes. And of course, you got to poke through the two handles there. And these are not going to be used. This is for later cars. Have a handle here, like a armrest type of handle, so not used on these earlier cars. So we'll get the chrome on and then offer up the panel. Okay, and there we have the door panel installed. New chrome and re-chromed hardware. Looks beautiful. Pretty difficult lining up all those clips. They all, you know, there's different directions that you've got to figure out, and which I did after a while, but it took a while to sort out what direction all those clips should face to get them all to line up. Also, I believe there should be a chrome up here along the top here, which is like a chrome channel that the door slots, the panel slots into, which we don't have here. So I haven't been able to put that on, but that should be in there. So he did get some chromes similar to this, but there's no provisions for that style with the clips that go along. That's not what should go in the top there. So I think he got the wrong style for a different model. I believe that the ones that go up there that he got are actually for Series 2, and they go down here, and they do take those clips. And anyway, yeah, we're gonna have to get those upper chromes at some point. We just don't have them, so I'm just doing what I can. So the other side is ready to go. I've got the door capping installed, like I say. It's all nicely seated, and I've got the panel down here ready to go. Now, for those who are installing panels at home, you can take a snap screenshot right now and see the direction of all these clips. And you can see I had to cut little pieces of vinyl out so that you can make the clip swing down there easily. Otherwise, if it's going over top of the vinyl, it's too much and it binds and won't get into position easily. So if you cut those little reliefs in the vinyl, it helps a lot for the clip to be able to swing, do what it needs to do. Any minor thing, adjustment becomes easier too. You can kind of reach up in there with some plastic tools and just swing it whichever way it needs to go. And then the bottom corners will not go unless you elongate that hole. I wasn't able to make that clip work, so but there's enough around the edges that it's not going anywhere. So yeah, we're gonna offer this in and just pop it in place and cut the relief holes as you need to for these as it starts going in. You'll see it trying to poke through. So just cut around them very carefully. You don't want to make the hole too big. And yeah, and then install the hardware. Okay, so that's both door panels in, and now I have installed the seat tracks through the Harduras, so it's just a matter of finding those holes and bolting them in. And I've also put in the seat belts as well. Just finding the holes and bolting them in. The shoulder belts are attached up here. So that's looking really good. Once I do the center console still needs to be all trimmed and that, and I just got it today, and he's still waiting to get his aluminum back, so that'll be a next week project. But once the center console is all done with the radio console, then we can put that in, and then the seats to finish it. So now the interior is done except for the console and seats, and like I say, you got to get those chromes for the doors at some point. That's an easy thing to do later. So I'm going to turn my attention now to trimming the boot, and then center console, like I say, and then we'll get into the top. Now, just one thing I did want to point out is these door rebate shut panels. I've now bent them to the right profile so that they follow. You can see over there, I gotta clean up that little wow at the top, but it nicely finishes against the door panel, and I just use a rubber mallet going along with a plastic block and a rubber mallet just to tap it in and out where it needs to go so that it nicely fits against the door. So same thing with this one, and it just does that wow there. And then, like I say, I've got that trim screw in the top to hold it. It just goes through. So yeah, that's how those finish. I'll get that one a little better. You don't see the wow from the outside. Yeah, you can see how this looks like here. Looks pretty nice and smooth, so I'm gonna have to, yeah, you can see that there. I'm gonna have to smooth that out a little bit. That's easy. Can take a piece of leather and some plastic pliers and tap it straight again. Not a big deal. But there you can see the other side. Looks really nice. So that's looking great. Okay, just installing the new Sill chromes. So I've taken them out of the bag, and you can see the profile there. And these use these special little clips that I'm sliding in. You got to make sure you get each Sill chrome gets 5 of these, and you can see how they're shaped. Okay, so the longer end with the tangs, it slides in like this, and you can kind of see there, it goes underneath that little edge lip there. You slide it in, okay, and then the half round with the spikes, they stick out the bottom. So you get them evenly spaced on the chrome, all 5 of them, and then offer it up to the car. Obviously the deeper end is the top, and you use a mallet and a block of wood to hammer it on, and make sure you do it nice and evenly. Okay, so there's the chrome hammered on. It's pretty tricky, you got to do it evenly. So like I say, I used a block of wood and a mallet there, and once you get it going, it goes home quite easily. So yeah, and you can see that relief cut was perfectly where we needed it to be for that to fit properly. So that's looking really good. We've got it done on both sides. So next piece I'm going to do is the grab handle, which his original one was in good shape. There's no rips or tears, so I've just re-dyed it. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to take out this underdash panel just temporarily so that I can reach up behind and do up the bolts. It's an early style grab handle, so that it doesn't have those big chrome brackets like the later cars do. So it has a little bracket that goes into the side of here. So I'm gonna have to find those holes. They're somewhere back here. Can just unclip it here and use my hole finder to find the original holes, and then drill them through the new panel. And yeah, so that bracket goes in there, and then there's a little bolt that goes up through the handle, and then there's two little screws that go in from behind into the end of the handle, and so there's no visible chrome here. So yeah, we'll get that underdash removed so we can access those holes and put in the handle. Okay, and there we go. The grab handle is installed. I think you can see there's that little bracket that just screwed in place first, and then there's just a screw coming up from the bottom into the bottom of the handle there, and then two little screws through the dash. I've got that all reassembled with the underdash now, so that's looking really good. Interior is looking really great. So yeah, we're gonna call it a day today, and tomorrow we'll get into retrimming the center console and radio console and get those installed. And then once those are in, we can put the seats in and move into doing the top. Okay, so getting into installing the boot, it's very simple. So you can see these nice, beautiful new boot boards that they had made, all shiny black paint. So to install these side pieces, which I've just done now, they just sit in place. There's nothing, no screws or anything like that. So I take these boot boards out of your way, just lift them out, and you'll see they're cut so that there's a little slot in that these sideboards sit down into. So if you lift the boot board out of the way, you can offer the boot board in. It covers the wiring in the front and goes up and behind the hinge there, and there's a cutout for the wiring there. So you push it up into the corner and push the bottom in tight, and then same thing with the other side. Lift the boot board out, push it up into the corner, top first, and get it in position, and then just give it a whack to push it in position, and then you can put the boot board back in, and the boot board holds it hard over so it can't go anywhere. It's pinched between the boot board here and between the bodywork at the top. So same thing on the other side, it's pinched top and bottom there. So that's what holds it in place. So now we can put in the Hardura insulation piece that goes on the front wall there. You can see there's little brackets sticking up that Hardura should tuck into. There's 3 of them going across. You want to try and get it tucked into there and then glue it to the back wall. Now also, while we're back here, you can almost see, it's focusing on my finger, but in those top corners, like right where my fingertip is, if it refocuses, you can see, I'll zoom in, yeah, there's those little holes that you got to poke through the Hardura on the other side, and that's where those lift-the-dot studs go through. So I'm going to install those lift-the-dot studs first before I put this Hardura in place, because otherwise you'll never access it. And yeah, once that's in, you can, once the lift-the-dots are in place, I should say, with the nuts on the back here, we can glue in that Hardura piece. And once the Hardura piece is in place, then it's just the main mat that has 4 snaps in it. And we've got to locate and install the male parts of the studs. BAS supplied a new boot mat, and they supplied it with the female studs already installed. So what I'm gonna have to do is lay this in place and chalk the backside of the female stud and let it leave a mark on the floor, and that'll tell me where to put the male studs. Pretty simple. So we'll install those lift-the-dots, and then here's the Hardura piece for the front wall there. We'll glue that in and then install the mat with snaps. Poof, and just like that, we have a fully trimmed center console and radio console and the seats installed. So just got that done today. Fully trimmed that console and got it all in there. Boy, these are bloody tight. Like the seats are right up against the console on both sides and against the sill. So They really don't leave you much allowance with these, but I guess that's how they were. So yeah, that is finishing off the interior nicely. Turns out I was wrong. These the chromes here are not the channel type, although some later cars did have that. So that's what I thought we were missing here. No, it is this kind of a chrome like they've given me, but I need to get these special clips that I have to put in with little screws that hold that, and then you can snap the chrome on in place. So I got to get some of those clips ordered in, and then we can just drill and install them with screws and pop the chrome on there to finish up those upper chromes. So yeah, waiting for those clips to arrive. So we can't quite finish that, but everything else is looking really good. So I'm gonna now turn my attention to the top. So we've just got it in the frame in its upright position. And it's painted in that proper sort of a grayish green. Same as the seat frames on these were done actually. Has that green tint to it. Yeah, but we're going to start off by unscrewing this header pan, and I'll be trimming that in headliner material. So we'll get that done first, and then reinstalled onto the frame, and then I can go about installing the webbing straps. They go on with little screws with little chrome acorn nuts on the inside, so we'll get those set up next. But first of all, this pan, so we'll get into it. Okay, just getting this top ready to go. I've already trimmed the header pan in bow drill, so you can see how that looks. That's easy to remove. There's just 4 little chrome bolts there that you do either side, 2 either side I should say. And then take all the hardware off and trim it in bow drill, and then put all the hardware back on. You've got new little chrome rings there that I've installed, and the hold down straps. So yeah, the bow drill was always done to match the inside of the top. So that's what this one is, a black top, black on tan. So it's got the tan on the inside. So that should match the rest of the inside of the top. So that is now secured on the windscreen and adjusted. So I've put tape on the car just so I can mark my center lines. Still have to measure and mark that, pretty simple. And now I'm starting to do the webbing straps. So the front, it starts at the front and glues to itself once around. And then you put these screws through with the little acorn nuts on the inside. So little chrome acorn nuts. So, and they go right through the center of the webbing straps. So the back one, I always save until the end. We'll get the top on the car and start pulling it tight. And then once we establish where this one goes in accordance to the windshield, then I will mark that and poke it through after the fact. But I use the top as a means to figure out where that goes. And of course they come right back into these bottom corners, where is at the peak of its dip there basically. So yeah, of course I've done like a triple layer of tape. Not that that's gonna protect it too much, but every little bit helps. And certainly when I go along and I'm doing stapling, I use this guy up against the car just to protect. Don't ask me why, I know. So you can't be too careful. Everything is right on the bodywork there. So I really want to protect the body where that tack strip is, because the whole top staples off on there. And then you've got the little chrome anchors for the boot cover that screw on. And you gotta send those screws into the wood without breaking anything. And then you've got the rear chrome finisher that covers over all the staples, and it goes on with a bead of piping under it. So everything is finishing off there right along the edge of the bodywork. So really tricky. You got to be really careful to not scratch the paint, make any marks. So now I'm going to offer the top in place and start, just get it kind of centered and kind of stretched in position down both sides. Of course, it's going to glue into here, and there are chrome finishers that hold it. There's like a flap that glues into there and a chrome finisher that holds it. These bottom corners on E-types, all the tops I've purchased, they always leave this bottom corner long, and I've got to fit the top and then draw my lines where I want to cut that bottom corner, cut it with some scissors and re-sew it so that it's finished, so that it lines up perfectly, so that it's not going to get trapped in the door here. It kind of comes up on an angle and down onto the bodywork and up to where the chrome finisher is going to cover it. So yeah, for whatever reason, they always leave those corners long on the new tops, and you got to finish it yourself, cut it and sew it yourself, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So I've done a number of these, and it's just part of the process. So you kind of fit the top twice. So I'm going to get into it, get it all stretched in position. I usually use a series of clamps and that, so I don't have to get into fully gluing things yet. Clamps and a couple staples around the back is kind of essential. So we'll get it going, and then of course there's this rear bow is glued in place. It has an inner flap that glues around that bow. So we'll get that established and go from there. Okay, we've got the top just gently clamped and held in place. So what I've done here to start off, marked the center line and just glued the center and put a couple of staples through, like just onto itself to hold it in, clamp it in position on that center bow. So it's glued and stapled just for about 6 inches there. That way I can pull from either side of that and it's gonna stay on the center and stay where it needs to be. And then I move that bow to where it needs to be, under tension, put a couple staples in the back to keep it under tension. You gotta do that. Extra set of hands helps a lot. One person to hold the bow where it needs to be, the other person to pull tight just down into the center. Put a couple staples there, and then work it out to the sides here, pull it out. Now, I've already cut these sides. That's what I was talking about. You can see the cut pieces here. That is what I've cut out of the top. So that was like that. So I've cut that back, and the trick is to pull it down tight, pulling down that seam, which falls right on that bow, pulling these corners out tight, and making sure you can still get some here. So I've had to put some staples around the corner here, pull this down tight, and of course as you do it, I'm pulling forward like that, and that pulls out all the wrinkles, so you know it's going to go once it's all pulled forward. So takes a lot of testing, you know, extra set of hands helps a lot, and you know, pulling it forward every time to make sure that all the wrinkles will pull out from that position. So I've clamped the corners, got some staples just in those corners. I've measured and marked where this needs to be. So took a measuring tape on the outside, and you can feel the screw and the hole through the top there. So I've marked that. It's actually 10 1/4 for that rear bow. So we're gonna set the webbing straps at 10 1/4, and then I've marked here on the tape where that seam falls. It's actually underneath of this thing, so that I can center this on that center line of where the seam is. Center the webbing, I should say. So the webbing should, on the inside, be following this seam, so it covers the seam on the inside. So we've got it all marked out and in place. So now I'm gonna, and you can see I need to take a little bit more here so that it doesn't pinch. We don't want it to pinch. We want it to just clear the body, but not pinch, so that it still covers everything here. So I've marked that. So I'm gonna cut back a little bit more there, just even out the curve, and that'll be fine. So it covers well there. This comes right down. I've cut it to where it needs to fall in the bottom corners there. And the chrome finisher is gonna come and just stop short of that. And then I can trim the rest of it off. So nice and easy. So now I'm gonna just do a seam to finish this edge, so it's not gonna go anywhere. Can fold it back on itself on the inside, just nice and easy. And yeah, and then we'll reattach it, this time using glue everywhere and staples, and get it nice and tight. So I'm gonna go do those mods to these bottom corners, and then reinstall the top properly. Okay, and we're nearly finished. We've just got to pull the front around and get that tucked in there with some glue and the rubber top seal. But other than that, we've got the side rubbers pressed on and cut to shape. We've got these chromes riveted in place. You can see I got that nice transition stitched. And we've got the rear chrome finisher with the little hold down brackets for the boot cover installed. Boy, did that take a while. So yeah, triple layer tape right up to where the piping goes. And then as I go along, I use like a plastic spatula underneath of the area every time I drill and put a screw in. I kind of lock that spatula in there just to protect the paintwork from any potential accidents, and get it all in there. So it's looking really nice and stretched out, really beautiful. So now I'm just going to open it up. I've just installed these rubbers and cut them. They might need a little more cutting through. I think they're pretty good, but we'll see how it goes. And I'll have to clean up the glue there a little bit. But yeah, it's looking really good. You can see on the inside here what it looks like. A little bit of glow. Oh, actually, before I open it up, while it's all fixed in place like this, we've got these back flaps that, remember we put in that lift the dot snap there when we put those in, so I can just make a mark on the material. Just use a piece of chalk, make a dot, transfer the dot, punch the hole, and put in the female snap there. You can see I've got the male snaps installed there too. So now we can finish those off with the snaps, and then we'll open it up. Now on the inside here, you can see I've glued those flaps to the top bows, so they're looking really good. And the webbing straps go down in those corners as they should. So it's all looking really good. So we can open it up. After we get those snaps in, we'll undo the snaps and open it up and finish off just that front header rail area, and that'll be it. And then we can fit the boot cover. There it is, the finished top. Look at that, and that completes this beautiful E-type Jag 62 E-type. Look at that. That top looks just beautiful. Straight, got all the wrinkles out. It's nice and tight. It seals beautifully across the top of that windshield. I got the new top seal in there, and it's original chrome finisher there. And yeah, well, I've got the window down a little bit, but just always close them with it down for the first time when you put in all the seals and the frames and everything like that. But no, it fits beautiful. I was just rolling it up and down. Yeah, this came out all beautifully. I'm very happy with that. Nice tight rear window. Yeah, this car is just looking fantastic. I should give it a final polish of that window. You can see fingerprints on the inside. But yeah, no, it came out really nice. So yeah, just finished it off with the side finishers here, and then of course all the rubber seals, and then I already had it glued along the front lip there to where it needed to be. So when I opened it up, I just chalked that line so it doesn't move, and then thoroughly glued the material inside of the trough there that fits over the top of the windshield. And then once it's all nice and pushed into the corners and properly glued, then I glued in the big rubber seal and just cut it off even with the edges. And so it seals beautifully there. And yeah, looks great. So, and I haven't even steamed it. That's just from trimming. I usually steam these a bit just for any final wrinkles, and it's, yeah, might get, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it needs any further steaming. It looks pretty good. So that completes this interior, and I'm just gonna take you through. Well, okay, yes, today we are getting the chrome finishers, the clips for installing the chrome finishers. They're this type of a chrome finisher, but instead of these kind of clips that go through the panel and pinch off on the backside, these are clips that this can just snap to. And so you got to screw those clips into the steel door capping and have them going along, and you snap into them. And it basically fills that gap there. This one's gonna need a little bit of figuring out alignment. I think what the issue here is the door capping is a little low and can come up higher here. The other side is perfectly even, as you can see there. So yeah, we're gonna have to fiddle with this when we get the chrome finishers in, which are supposed to show up later today. So, but yeah, we've got the lower sill seals in here now with the chrome, finishing all that. The center console and radio console are in there now. Sorry, the glare of the sun really sets off this color. And this color is Jaguar's tan color. Yeah, so common color for their interiors, and it really looks fantastic in the sun like this. You can see all the variations of carpet and vinyl and leather. And of course, moquette in the back on the wheel arches there. Yeah, here's you can see that bow drill for the top headlining, and we trimmed the whole header pan in that, and those are those top hold down straps. I think that those hold down straps should have been tan from BAS, but they sent us black ones. Not a big deal. You rarely ever see them, yeah, this just came out beautiful. I'm very proud of it. Yeah, everything fit really nice, and it just looks fantastic. So just needs those door chrome finishers, and we're all set. So, and those fixed head coupe seats worked great. You'd never, you know, only the purist would know that they're a little wider at the top, but they look great. They fit. They're going to be just fine. So, yeah. So I'll do a couple shots with the top folded down just to show it. Oh, and the boot interior is all fully trimmed. I'll show you that. Just come in from the passenger side here. Yeah, you can see this door panel has a nice even line. So, and it looks like this is, yeah, it's a little higher at the back here. So it's sitting up on that. So maybe something's happened with that little chrome shelf that it sits on in there. Maybe it's not quite sitting right. I'll have to look at that. But yeah, this came out really nice. Got all their underdash done there. And the grab handle here, all finished. Center console, radio console. Doesn't have a radio or anything as of yet, so that's for the owner to decide later. So yeah, dash top, and all of this just looks gorgeous. So I'm going to show you the boot interior. We'll just pull the handle here. And here's the finished boot interior. That looks fantastic. It's all properly snapped in place here. Just those are easy, just like I say, chalk. You can still see chalk on the thing. But yeah, just chalk the snap and tap it on the floor. It leaves a perfect circle, so that's where you drill and install the screw with the snap. Really simple, so that's looking beautiful. So I'm gonna show you a shot with the boot cover on after this. But okay, and here's a nice shot with the top just freshly folded down. You gotta be nice and careful to make sure it's not getting pinched or trapped when you fold it down. I usually try to pull it out, at least for this front section. It just sits better that way. And of course, before you put the boot cover, make sure your hooks aren't in the way. You gotta tuck that one down. These ones are kind of best like that, pointed down out of the way. Yeah, and we're just gonna put the boot cover over, and it just, you know, clips onto those 4 clips around the edges here. And at the front, it's got like a pinch thing that just kind of tucks under this edge. And yeah, and then you've got straps on the front that come down and clip off underneath to some lift-a-dots. And yeah, there you go. So there's the finished interior. Just got to put on those little door chromes, but other than that, it's looking absolutely beautiful. So really happy with how this has turned out. And as you can see, those fixed head coupe seats have lots of room there. They're not a problem. And yeah, they look great, and they're, you know, more comfortable in that respect because they have a broader backrest. They're not as pointed. I mean, it's marginal, but yeah, so that looks fantastic. Just gonna put the boot cover on now to finish it off. Now, I should also point out, when you fold the top down, you want to have those, that's what those top hold down straps do. They unclip there, they go through the little hole in the header pan, and they snap to those lift the dots that we put in the upper corners there earlier before we trimmed the trunk. So now that those are there, there's also another set that I have to install that are down lower, that when the boot cover goes on, it snaps to those. Okay, and there we are with the boot cover. Like I say, it just, you've got little leather clips that clip onto those chrome finishers around the back, and you pull it forward, and you've got this leather covered like pinch thing that just goes onto the body here and kind of tucks under that front lip. And then you've got a 10-ax snap just on the inside here that it's the snap itself is just into the top frame bracket there. And then you've got those straps there that attach to lift the dots on the inside. Come on, focus. Anyway, you get the idea. There's some lift the dot, there they are. Lift the dot snaps on the inside that those straps attach to, and that keeps it nice and taut there. That with the 10X, and so that's how the boot cover goes on. Lovely way of finishing the top when it's down. So that is the completion of this car. So with the exception of those chrome strips, which we'll add whenever they arrive, that's looking really good. So I'm going to call that a video. Until next time, everyone, I'm Geoff Chrysler, a detail enthusiast and owner of Rightway Heritage Trimming. We'll see you again. And I'll just leave you with a few snapshots of the finished project here. Big shout out goes to Richard Michael Owen, who did all of the mechanical and assembly restoration on this car. He's done a beautiful job. Richard specializes in these Jags, as you probably know, and of course Coachwerks Restorations handled all the metal and paint, did the whole body, and in both cases we're dealing with the best of the best, and it's always a pleasure working on cars that are done to this high of a standard. So great job, guys.